Now, if you remember a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, we interviewed Brenda Angle on the Leading Saints podcast, and we talked about some of her personal leadership experience in life, and but also she is heavily involved in humanitarian efforts in Africa, and she is part of an organization called Hearts and Hands. And long story short, as many of you remember from that episode, she wanted to figure out how to get as many people on buses in Tanzania and drive the 7-8 hours to Nairobi, Kenya during the temple open house and get all these people through the temple because, many of them have funding to maybe do their own endowments when that time comes, but many don't even have a concept of the temple or what it feels like or, all those things. And so she thought, let's get people to the temple from Tanzania. And so she didn't really have any fundraising efforts in place, but our forces combined and we put a call out to the Leading Saints audience. And wow, you all stepped up. It was so inspiring to just sit at my desk and see these donations come through, everything from $5, $10, $1,000, $4,000, and collecting this money and getting all of these 200 plus. I mean, Brenda says it in this interview you're about to hear, but and miracle upon miracle happening, getting these people there, having an experience with the temple. It was beautiful to just be a part of it. And I take no credit for it, but Leading Saints coming together as a community just shows you the impact we can have, regardless of your church calling, regardless of your formal influence. We can really do some remarkable things for Latter-day Saints across the world. So I wanted to bring Brenda back on the podcast and just get an update. What was it like? Tell us the stories, the opposition, the holdups, and the beautiful miracles throughout it all. And she does just that. So thank you again. I encourage you to check out the good work that Brenda does with Hearts and Hands. We'll link to her organization. And I'm sure we'll have Brenda back on in the future because these are the types of projects we could really have an impact with growing the kingdom of God, shepherding people to the temple, even in Nairobi, Kenya. So let's jump into it. Here's my follow-up interview with Brenda Angle. Brenda, welcome back to the Leading Saints podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, it was just a few weeks ago, it feels like, that we first met and recorded, and we talked about all sorts of things, but one of the projects that you had mentioned is this temple trip for the Nairobi Kenya Temple that you planned. Maybe just give us, like, if somebody didn't hear that first episode, give us a quick review on what you did and what you were trying to put together.
Okay, so we are getting this great idea, me, Alan Jackson, and a couple of the missionaries that are serving in Moshi, Tanzania, they're in Arusha, Tanzania. And we get this good idea of these people have never seen a temple. Let's get together and take some of them there, and maybe they'll want to go back and get their endowments, and these boys will go and see it and want to go on missions, and we can get some priesthood leadership going. So great idea. We're thinking 25, 50 people. That was my original thing.
Fill a bus and go, right?
Yeah, fill a bus and go. And it started multiplying. And so then Leading Saints, thank goodness, reached out to us and said, hey, let's do a podcast and see if we can get you some funds, because we had like nothing. And people and people just coming in, so the excitement just went crazy, and we were like, oh my goodness. And so we raised a ton of money on here on Leading Saints podcast within like a week. Like, I can't even believe that. Like, yeah. I've been trying to do humanitarian forever, and I've never seen anything like it. So I'm in Tanzania telling the people about it, and I'm watching the Leading Saints, just like more and more people just giving their coins or bits, whatever.
Yeah. It was really cool.
It was really neat to see that. And so then I'm like, I'm worried we're going to get too much. So I'm like, okay, let's cut this off, because I don't want extra, because I don't want extra. I just want what we need. Yeah. And then, yes. And then it rolls from there. So people kept coming to the last minute, to the last hour. And we ended up with a lot of people going. So, okay, that's the preliminary. Our great intentions that took off. And
it turned out that it was good that we got a little bit more, because you got more and more requests coming in for people to come on the buses, right? And I think it worked
Oh,
out that it was about $100 for every person that came, and that included their lodging and their meals and all that, right?
yes, yes. So we did pretty good. There was extra expenses that showed up, like at the border. We had to buy them off to get people through that didn't have their documents.
Oh no.
It was just so it became a big deal. Yes, the money was so just it was really just a miracle. Like I've never seen anything like that happen. Like I said, I've done lots of humanitarian, never seen something like that happen. And it I just wish all the people that donated could just see the face of one of these people that went smiles, just smiles and gratitude. Like that's
Yeah.
all we got from them. So
And we have a bubble on our Instagram page, because you took over our account a few days there as this was happening, and sort of gave us some live updates there. And then you'll also send me a bunch of pictures that we'll include with this episode of of some of those moments you captured, and it's just so inspiring. And yeah, I mean, this episode, I really want it to be something that the Leading Saints audience, especially those who contributed, feels sort of that ownership of, like, we did something special here, and we got both members and non-members who maybe had never had an experience with the temple. We got them a temple experience. They went through the open house, and it was awesome. And we're stimulating the work, in Africa through this effort. So really cool stuff.
that's right. I think that just the name of your podcast, Leading Saints, that was what inspired me to want to take people is as when I go into these little branches and you see the lack of leadership that they have. They just need leadership, and it's like that what happened on this trip will change the branches and the eventually stakes in Tanzania, because I was on a bus. I tried to hop different buses, and I just saw a whole bunch of pre-stage boys on there, and it's like, wow, if they can go to the temple and fill that, get on a mission and come back, they'll lead the saints here. They will, and the Lord needs them. And so that was really my root desire, was to help build stronger men and leaders, women, families, so that they can just flourish, and they will. They will.
Yeah. Really cool. And so, I mean, there's always, with these trips, there's always hiccups along the way, but as far as you kind of had one central gathering place in Tanzania, and then did the buses go like as a caravan type of thing, or?
Okay, so let me just paint this picture. I fly in Monday night. We're leaving Tuesday morning. Wake up, it is pouring rain, pouring, pouring. And to them, a lot of them, it's like a bad omen that maybe things aren't going to go well. So
Oh no.
we are praying, praying. I send out to all my friends, please pray this rain will stop. But we're at 3 locations. So I'm in charge of 7 buses at one of the branches in Arusha. And then the senior couple, the Lukes, who are from St. George and just lifesavers, they were at another branch with a few buses. And then we had Alan and Tish in Moshi with 3 buses. So 13 buses total now. And we had people sign up at the last minute. We had a guy staying up all night trying to they had to have passports and yellow fever cards, and we had to help pay for all of those. So that's where the funds went to. A lot of it went to that. And so he comes in with just stacks of all these documents. We've got to now get them to the people and get on the bus. It's pouring rain. Well, right before we had to get on the bus, the rain did stop. And I'm down at a big tent. A big tent is where the church meets down at this Arusha branch. And the buses are up at the top of this washed out road way up there. And so we're trying to organize people and I'm sending groups of 25 up there. Well, the bus drivers aren't there. They're off having a drink somewhere. The buses are locked. So all of our organization got messed up and people went everywhere and whatever. And then I end up loading these buses, and there's another 50 people down there. I don't know where they came from. They don't have their documents. I don't know what to do with them. My phone isn't working. I can't get a hold of anybody else. And just people everywhere. Happy people. Like, I don't care if it was raining. They were coming to the temple. They didn't care. They just showed up on motorcycles and buses. They had to pay to get there. And some of them came from a really long ways away to get to this. And so it was just like chaos for me. And my heart was chaos. How do we get all these documents, people get them on and make sure that, so this one little mom sitting there and she brings somebody over, can't speak their language. It's another hard thing. And the missionaries, oh my goodness, those missionaries were absolutely incredible. Any of you moms out there that your missionaries are in Tanzania, incredible, incredible. They couldn't go to the temple and they were so sad, but they were helping us do all this. So they're translating, and this mom has documents for her children, but not the baby. Okay, I can't take you and leave you at customs, or your baby at customs. You'll have no way home, so you're not going to be able to go. And it's just like, you see these people like they want to go to the temple. So I'm just like, I'm sorry, like I don't know what to do with you because I can't leave you at customs. Okay, so then I get up there on the buses and I'm looking around. I see the mom sitting there with her kids. I'm like, oh, I gotta tell her she has to get off the bus. And I'm just praying. And right then, someone came up. We found her papers.
Oh,
and
wow!
So that was one little miracle. So many miracles. Like, really, it got so big, and I had all these people left down there that I didn't have bus for. So Alan from Moshi came and picked up the ones he could. We get to customs. It's like 5 hours away or something. I can't remember. And we're talking about 3 windows they have to go through with 3 people working, and the line is down, out the sidewalk, clear out in wherever. Just so many people, babies, children, old people. We had some youth that came with their neighbors who didn't come with their parents. It's like, oh, who knew?
Wow.
And just happy people. Okay, like my heart's in a little. It's traumatized, because I'm thinking, how are we going to get all these people there? How are we going to not lose people? How I can't talk to the bus drivers. I can't communicate with them. So it got so big so fast. And like I say, we had 100 people right before we left. Another extra 50 people showed up. We've had so many people. I never heard a baby cry. I never saw a child running wild. I never heard one complaint. I never heard anybody say, why do we have to sit on the bus for 2 hours waiting for people to get to the line? Why didn't you organize this better? Why? Nothing. They're just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell the people back home, thank you for helping us come. And that's all I got. And oh my goodness. So then we get through customs. We head into Nairobi, huge city, lots of traffic, takes us a few more hours to get there. We rented out 2 entire hotels. We didn't know we needed 2 hotels, but when we got there, we had one on standby. We had to use it. And these people, okay, so we're making peanut butter sandwiches to feed them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches, because what else am I going to do to feed these people? We feed them. They're so grateful. Whatever, they go into their rooms and dissipate quietly. And then we're cleaning up and another bus pulls in. Like, who knew we were missing a bus? I didn't know. Did anybody count? Like, how did we know we only had 12 buses that we just fed? There's so many people and so many buses. Who knew? I don't know where these people were. I still don't know where they were. I don't know if they got lost or they have to stop for potty breaks. I have no idea. But we got all the food out. The Lord blessed the food. It stretched. We fed tons more sandwiches. They had to have 40 people on that bus, which should have only had 25. And so, anyway, we fed them all. And then they go to sleep. We crash the next morning. Sweetest thing ever. We wake up in this beautiful hotel that was so kind and good and gave us the best prices and whatever. And they just had this giant buffet of food. Okay, so imagine people a lot of people never left their hometown before, and they've never seen anything like this. And you just got plates piled high of just food, and they're happy, but there's this air of excitement, smiles and excitement. They know they're going to the temple. So we're like, okay, we're going to have to stagger these buses. And I keep telling the church department, hey, we got more people coming on these buses. And they're like, oh, okay. And we're going to stagger them so we don't overwhelm them. And so I tell the people, just hang out for a while, because it might be an hour or a half or something before you even get to get on buses. Oh, no. We're getting on the bus right now. And we're sitting there. We're not missing this opportunity. They finished up quick, got on the buses, and just sat for, I don't even know how long the last bus had to sit there. I have no idea, because I had to go. And so we get in, we go. You can't find the temple on GPS, just in case any of you go visit, like take a map or something, because it sent people to hotel rooms. I don't know. It just didn't. So we have buses all trying to find a hotel. We get there and it's just heaven. We get there and it's raining again, and it stops when our buses get there. and just the most beautiful day ever. Just people
Yeah.
get off and off and off. They're organized. They brought in more people. Uh, just anyway, once we
Yeah.
stepped on that temple ground, like I know it's not even dedicated yet, but the piece of it just filled our hearts and souls, and we just did that for several hours. So anyway, go ahead
Wow.
and ask me a question.
So what, maybe, I don't know what sort of demographic markers or like membership information you have, but as far as like, so it was 12 buses total that all went with,
13 buses total.
okay.
13, yeah, we had 12 and then one that showed up. Yeah.
And then you had any idea as far as who were members or how long they'd been members
Yeah.
or anything like that?
I would say most of these people on here were members. We did have a lot of investigators that the missionaries had rounded up and sent, so we have no idea who or what. We don't know. But there were a lot of investigators, mostly members. I would say probably 80% members on this group. But we had two other buses join us, which was Molly, who I've talked about. Molly, who was just did the choir, tabernacle choir Christmas concert for the church, and the area authority had gone out to visit him, and area authority and Elder Matumbo showed up to take him through a VIP tour. So he came with all of his choir, which is another 50, and none of them are members. And then we had an orphanage I've been working with, the saddest, sweetest group of kids that just got wiped out in a flood, and they're homeless, but the little mama that's 24 that's raising all of them by herself because the other helpers just died this year.
Wow.
She's LDS. She said, please come back and take me to get my endowments. But she's trying to raise these kids in the gospel, but she doesn't have any technology. She doesn't have any books. She doesn't have money to drive to church so that she can get them to church so they can get baptized. One little girl has a deep infection in her leg and it's going into her bone. And she's little Ashley, she's like, I just want to be baptized. That's my dream. But because I have this infection, I'm not worthy, because they believe that if they have anything wrong with them, or that it's more, Satan that's doing it. And so they're not really worthy. And so she came to the temple. So we had this mama, 24-year-old, adorable Vanessa that I love so much. She shows up. We sent a bus to get her and some of her 98 of them got off the bus. Like, wow. I'm calling the person doing the food, hey, add more. I did that like every day. Add more. We have like twice as many orphans. Anyway, so they get off these kids, and these kids all want to be members of the church, but then none of them are. None of them have been able to get baptized. Yeah. So that's our 15 buses.
Wow.
And 537 people, we think.
Wow. That is awesome. And these are everything from, everyday going members to orphans to non-members and everything in between. So that's cool.
Lots of actually, we had our drill team come that they aren't members, and they brought some of their families with them that have been drilling our wells. So we had a lot of people who are
that's cool,
very curious about the church. I had one man stop me when I was in Moshi, telling him what we were going to do a few months ago, and he said, I have two neighbors that are very interested in the church. Would you mind if they come? And I'm like, yes, I would love for them to come. Absolutely, bring them. So we don't know the ratio.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure there'll be some baptisms happening from it. So that's awesome.
I already just got a call from some kid in the Moshi area that I don't know if he's on the trip or his sister was, but he's like, I want the missionaries to come, and I want to serve a mission, and I want to belong to this church. So I'm like, okay,
that's cool.
So yeah, we have a lot of good feedback coming in.
Nice. And then, so on the temple grounds, I mean, everybody kind of went at once, and you just sort of get them through the temple as soon as you get them in line. And we've all stood in lines at temple open houses, right? So,
yeah.
And anything else as far as being at the temple, that any other stories or?
They have a chapel that they haven't opened to the public yet. It's a beautiful chapel on the temple grounds, and so they got to go in there and set in the rooms. We took up all that. They were standing. There's so many people. Like it was, but they got to watch the video, and go through. And no, the temple grounds are beautiful. Big statue of Christ that they just loved. And you have to realize these people come from a lot of maybe dirt floors, and their homes are extremely humble. And to to be even on the grounds. It's so beautiful, and it's just simply beautiful. And to go into the temple, just incredible.
That's cool. And so it sounds like you got there the night, but it's about a 2-hour drive on the bus.
So we did at least 7 or 8 hours altogether from when we
Okay.
left to get to the hotel. Yeah, it was a long
7 to 8 hour
jaunt.
bus ride, and then you went to the temple, you went to the hotel, and then the next day you woke up and went to the temple. Is that?
And then that was supposed to be like a 30-minute ride, but we don't know how long it took people to get there.
That's funny. And then after you went through the temples, then the drive home happened?
Yes. So then we've got to feed all these people, because now it's like we're a couple hours late because we needed to get them back before dark. It's very dangerous for them to go home in the dark, but we've already passed that. And then we were going to go feed them. So we get everybody. So first we take the VIP tour with Elder Matuma with Molly through the temple, and they present him with his genealogy and all. It's just incredible. So think of a man that's been a pastor and has preached Christ every day of his life, like multiple times. Everything out of his mouth is, and then to hear in the temple that your family can be still together forever, that you can have your wife for eternity. That's a new concept that nobody teaches. And so I'm standing with him in the ceiling room, and it's just a quiet, somber, like, I don't know what the feeling was. It was very peaceful, but very deep thought, and that we'll return back to a God that we lived with before this life. Those are things that a lot of other churches don't ever question or talk about. And so that was just a really sweet experience to see this man who's adopted 35,000 street children and loved his wife like no other, and his family, and just these new concepts that he's never heard in this life before. It was really a sweet experience. So we go out, we take pictures with this giant, massive group, and it's not all of them because some of them are still going to the temple. And then we start loading up the buses to go to this amazing, sweet Relief Society president. Oh my goodness. Shirley is like an incredible just leader. That's what I can say. She's a really excited president, and we got a hold of her, and she says, Brenda, I'll take care of this. We'll feed them. We rented out a little school that we could cook. You have to cook. Everything's cooked over a fire there. And so the rice and beans and the chicken that they fed them, they cooked all morning and expected us at noon, waited till 2:30, I think, when our buses finally got there, some of them. And they just put out food. And we'll share a picture, just lines of people and happy people. And anyway, she had her and her crew just pumping that stuff out. And then we had Molly come with his choir, and they sang as the people ate. The choir sang to us, and just the feeling of, I think on the temple ground, just the feeling of angels, of the heavens rejoicing, of like just the feeling there is, it's not, I don't have words for it, but it was just a really holy, sacred time. And it just carried through. They get on the buses, they're happy, they're a little more talkative now as they're eating, a little more just feeling good and thankful. And this is an experience that they never have had or would have ever had. And the hope for them to return kept coming up. Like one of the guys said, I never thought I could get my endowments in this life, and I'm going to figure out how to come back and do that. And just those kind of comments and the music and the everything. And then we finally got them on the buses to send them back to their homes, and they had to figure out how to get from the bus drop off to their homes, which was a big sacrifice for, I would say, almost most of them. Was probably a big sacrifice. So
that's so cool, so awesome. Any other story that you want to make sure we cover? Any other dynamic?
No, I have so many stories. We could take a long time, but we had a lot of opposition. Like I could feel it. It was so heavy and thick, and I should have stopped and said, "Oh, that means it's going to be really good," but I forget to do that until after. And so, and because we weren't, I realized that one of my hangups was, because I've been a leader in many different places in the church and had so many opportunities of doing more like big things or whatever, but I always under the guise of the church, and we weren't this time. In fact, we were not being really, we were on our own, and we needed to do that because there's no way you could get the church to say, okay, you can take 550 people across a border into another country. Like it could never happen. So it had to be done this way. But I think in my mind, just because of my programming and all my experience in leadership, is that I didn't feel like I could have all the angels and all the help, that I kind of had to do it more on my own because I was outside of the boundaries of the church, which was so silly. But I didn't realize that till a couple of days ago when I'm like, oh, that's why I felt like I had to carry this. And so it could have been such a easier, more peaceful experience on my part had I recognized that, because God loved these people, and getting them to the temple, it didn't have to be done this certain way or whatever. It was okay. And so anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing that I learned.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Brenda, I so appreciate that we got to play some level of a role in this, and
Oh,
obviously we want to give
thank
a ton of
you.
gratitude to the listening audience for stepping up and making that happen. And it was just so, encouraging to see just donations just flood in, thinking, I thought, yeah, there's Brenda. She got a cool story and she's doing this good thing. Maybe we can, get a couple $1,000, and to just see each stretch goal just blown out of the water, which was definitely needed as more people stepped up wanting to come and participate in the open house. So, wow, such a special thing to be a part of. And so I'm glad it worked out.
We could not have done it without the funds. Like there's it just, and the Lord knew that and just put that all together for us. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
cool. Well, sounds like we need to figure something else out to help these awesome saints in the future. And so we'll definitely keep in touch um, and see how we can continue to shepherd people to the temple, because that is a transformational place. And
Oh,
this is an obvious story of that.
I know that it changed lives and changed the it will change the church there. It will boost it forward just in leaps and bounds from the pace they were going. Absolutely.